Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, December 2024, meaning it's time to talk about December 1994, closing out this year of 30 years ago this month, and honestly, closing out this particular format of this show. I'll talk to you a little bit more at the end of the episode about what the future of this show is going to look like. But right now, let's focus on this very empty month. And I'm not even kidding you. There is not a lot that I want to talk about. Because as a lot of you already know, this is kind of an extension of my experience of being a teenager around this time. I mean, I was 16 years old. And speaking of that, before we even get into this, a special treat. I did this the previous 2 years at the end of the year of 30 years ago this month, so I'm going to do it again. So here is a picture of young head circa 1994. Still hadn't started growing any kind of facial hair to speak of. In fact, I think I went through puberty like the year before. I was a late bloomer, folks, but then it all happened. But yep, that is me. Age 16-ish. I don't remember exactly when those school pictures were taken. So somewhere during this particular school year. I know that's not my senior picture because the senior picture does not exist because I did not show up for that. All right, so like I said, there's really not a lot to talk about for December of 1994. So let's just get into the top albums. All right, for the first week of December 1994, another lame entry in the why was this music popular at this point for anybody. Once again, Eagles' Hell Freezes Over is the number one album in the country. I guess all the people who had finally gotten their accounting jobs, they all wanted to buy albums too. And speaking of lame and Christmas, for the next 2 weeks, the number one album in the country in December 1994 was Kenny G, Miracles, the holiday album. I have nothing. I mean, clearly I've never heard this, nor do I want to, but people bought it. But hey, for the fourth week of December 1994, I don't know how this album had a comeback, but I'm happy about it. Vitalogy from Pearl Jam. That's pretty crazy because there were no singles released or videos or anything, but then all of a sudden, boom, Vitalogy is number one again for a week at the end of the year. And because how the Tuesdays fell this particular month, because albums back then used to come out on a Tuesday, there's a fifth week, and for the fifth week of December 1994, the number one album in the country is this fucking thing right here. Okay, movies. Number one movie in the country for the first week of December 1994, The Santa Claus. We talked about this last time. I've never seen it. Somebody in the comments said that if I had kids, I would have watched it and enjoyed it. I have a kid, and neither one of us have ever been interested in watching The Santa Claus. For the second week of December 1994, an interesting one. I've never seen this movie. I remember it coming out, but it's an odd Christmas time number one, Disclosure, starring Michael Douglas and Demi Moore. And I think it's based on a book. And I don't know. That was definitely not up my alley when it came out, and so I never saw it. But once again, as usual, let me know in the comments. Is Disclosure a movie I should check out? All right, for the third and fourth weeks at the end, wrapping up 1994, a movie that I did see in the theater and quite enjoyed, Dumb and Dumber, starring Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels. And I remember liking it a lot when I saw it in the theater, but it's been a very long time since I've seen it, so let me know. How does it hold up? I got nothing. Whoa, okay, so here we are in December 1984. and I was 6 years old. But I do have some things to talk about. There was a movie that came out in December of 1984, and I happen to have the soundtrack too, but it's one of my favorite sequels of all time. Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo. Released on December 19th, 1984, which was only 7 months after the first Breakin' was released. That's how quickly they fucking pumped this one out. Actually, I feel like they were already making it. Do you remember at the end of Breakin', there's a whole thing at the end of the first Breakin' where it says, here's what's happening on the next episode of Breakin'. I'm like, man, they really were like thinking, man, this is going to be a fucking banger of a movie. Everyone's going to want to see part 2. Maybe they added that in later, if you know. But I mean, the original version I saw way back when I was a kid. And at the end, the rapping guy goes, "This story's through, but wait for part 2." But anyway, the part 2, Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo, which birthed the joke that everybody says when they say a part 2 of something, it's Electric Boogaloo. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I prefer Breakin' 2 over the first one. Is it a better movie? Is either one of them a good movie? They're both movies that I love, but something about this one just gets so wacky but still just fucking tons of fun, feel good, break dancing, hip hopping, all of that shit. This was like, I was just discovering hip hop music around this time, and I was so into both of those movies, Breakin' and Breakin' 2. If you haven't seen them, I mean, maybe don't. Because you're probably not going to love them as much as you're seeing right now on my face. But I still watch them now. And I'm just like, these movies are so fucking great. Also, rest in peace, Shabba-Doo, who passed away 3 years ago, maybe? It's been a few years. But anyway, like this Breakin' and Breakin' 2, when they came out, like I guess probably would have been maybe 85, and all of a sudden they were all over like HBO Cinemax. I watched these movies so many times, and I've watched them many times since because I fucking love them. Can't explain it. But Breakin' 2 came out December 19th, 1984. All right, shifting gears a little bit, but another one of my favorites, also released, I don't know the exact date, sometime in December of 1984, the fourth full-length album from Black Flag, Slip It In, which came out just a few months after Family Man, which came out just a few months after My War. So these motherfuckers were busy putting out albums, touring. Read all about it in Henry's book. It was a mess. But anyway, this is my favorite Black Flag album. And we did a ranking of Black Flag on Cranked and Ranked. And you can hear me talk all about it and how much I very much prefer the Henry Rollins era. And especially like this lineup of Black Flag is my favorite. What an interesting time 1984 was, that this and Breakin' 2 and Breakin' and My War, they all came out in 1984. And the 80s just kept getting more and more exciting, which is why, drum roll please, everyone out there. Okay, cool. That's why next year, the show is going to be 40 years ago this month, 1985. And then, like I did this year, at the end of the episodes, it'll be a little snippet about 1995. Because I've already gone through and done some prep work for the next year's shows, and it looks like 85 is winning by a landslide with stuff that I want to talk about. So the show will be 40 years ago this month, with a little bit of 1995 tucked into the end of the episodes, just like you're getting right now. So that's it. See what I'm saying? Not a lot to talk about. Basically nothing to talk about in 1994, and only a little bit to talk about in 1984. But next year is going to be a slightly different show. But I am pretty excited for next year's show. I think 1985 is going to be pretty fun to talk about. A little bit of 1995. But yeah, I'm glad to keep this show going because I know that some of you really enjoy this. And so yeah, another year of this bullshit along with all of my other bullshit. So thank you for watching my bullshit. You're all beautiful people, and I will see you all again next year.